Here, 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 here. It's part number 2 of daily number 525, where we learn to be a better gamer. Part number 1, we heard the dramatic rescue of this replay, and how close it was to not arriving at our doorstep today. And then we talked about PvT. The big issue that you have in Protoss vs. Terran is this. Literally this moment right here, when Terran gets this up. Huge army of Marine Marauder. Come and threaten it at your doorstep. Typically, we rely on robotics facility units. We rely on getting a very early Robo for early Colossus, or we rely on a very early Twilight Council for Speed Zealots and Storm. But here we see BabyKnight going for a triple Nexus, and how does he buy himself safety here? First, he did this huge push. We saw this at the end of part 1. A tremendous gateway push. Freaking 8 gateways before any tech was started. But rather than try to bust up and go for the kill in part 1, we saw BabyKnight comfortably delaying until this moment. And he even got an early Twilight Council for 3-basing player. He throws down the Twilight Council right as his big attack has just done a huge initial warp-in. So now BabyKnight has the comfort of 2 things. For one, we have a lot of gateway units, and we have small enough spaces that we can buy ourselves a little bit of time. What's also nice is that with 8 gateways, if a drop happens in the main, we have the ability to warp in a significant amount of units up at the top side. All we have to do is not be too passive with these units. I want to look at just a couple of subtle jukes that we're going to see out of BabyKnight at normal speed. Let's go to the BabyKnight cam. This is what I would define as the core concept for this defense. Look at him, he's kind of poking forward, poking back. He's just doing these slight moves just to make sure he has a sense of where the enemy army is. See this little move up? Oh, I still see the army. Alright, let's shoot at this a little bit. Oh, I still see the army. And all those little moves from BabyKnight may have seemed insignificant, but it allowed us to see where these medevacs were. If all of a sudden we juke forward and we see a couple units and no medevacs, we want to poke forward a little bit more, again to force field off the front units, but maybe even to kill a medevac. And the whole point of this little style of play is that we have plenty of force fields and plenty of gateways to be able to continue to morph in. BabyKnight is getting the worst end of the deal here. In its units loss tab, we're seeing BabyKnight actually have more losses than our opponent. It'll actually rack up quite quickly, especially given how damn good Marines are. Against basic gateway units, Marines are the winningest. They are so good. However, we don't really mind that much that we are coming out behind. We should come out behind here. All we gotta do is keep chrono boosting, keep churning out those gateway units, and just getting enough time. The other little cute trick that BabyKnight does that we don't see out of a lot of 3 Nexus players is he starts to build these defensive immortals. As he was pulling back, sure, he got these 2 to go for the gateway tech, but the immortal is the big ol' power blasteroo unit to be able to buy us just a little bit of extra muscle when we need it. Now I want you to note, BabyKnight was feeling on the ropes. The instant he saw a retreat, he immediately started to move forward. He has to keep an eye on where these forces are. Even though he still didn't have the upgrade, in this critical 2-minute period, BabyKnight just needed a little bit more time. Now that he has speed, oh yes. It's a lot easier once he has speed. And now with that in mind, it's time for a very rapid wrap-up of this game to go on to the next game. Once we have charge, we can go straight into Storm. How wonderful that we were able to use our gateways to supply us with 3 Nexuses. We get more gateways, we can even get another Forge, we can start waltzing out a little bit more boldly. We're comfortable leaving a couple of gateways open. Notice 4 of these gateways have been used. 4 could be used but are not being used, so that way we can do emergency warp-ins if we need. But great! The instant we do the warp in, all the counterattack problems. Aw, yeah. Speeding up. I'm just going to speed up so that we can see the stunning conclusion of this game. BabyKnight was on the verge of being dead, so it seemed, but no. Just careful positioning of his army in that 10 to 12 minute period was more than enough. And now BabyKnight just blasts down the front door. Sure, this is annoying, but a couple warp-ins can solve that problem. And plus, we can also just go frickin' kill him. See, with 8 gateways and even the worst of my health, you're going to be in excellent shape. Oh, yeah, this is where basically STC GG'd out because he was kind of not... No, I think he GG'd out a little bit later. This is definitely where the observer in the game ended up crashing out. So, we didn't actually get to see the end of this part, but basically, this got cleaned up and BabyKnight moved on in. Yeah! It's fine. It's fine. What I'm going to end up doing is loading another game. Ha! This is the second game in that series. Let me open it up. Where is my Lone Star Clash replay pack? Boink. Going right on in STC BabyKnight on Cloud Kingdom. So here is another play that I would call a consulting of the metagame. You know, I finished that sentence and can't remember how I started it, so let me try it again. This is another game where we get the opportunity to see a nice play that's made on the metagame. So, let me tell you a play that was once upon a time quite popular. Once upon a time, Protoss players liked to do early 3 gateway pressure after they expanded. This faded out of style. Why? Because it was so easy to defend as Terran, and then this left your poor Protoss player with not enough gateways to defend that 10-minute medevac push, no Colossi to defend that 10-minute medevac push, and certainly no Storms to defend that 10 medevac push. So it faded out of style. Players started going for much more late-game stuff. What did Terrans do to respond? Terrans started cutting every frickin' corner in the book. Going for 1 bunker with 2 Marines, and then building extra barracks with extra add-ons. Getting barracks and refineries before even building a bunker. It seemed like Terrans were cutting all the damn corners. So suddenly, that 3 gateway pressure has become popular again. Let's take a look at it in a game. So this is game number 2. And we're going to do this in 2 parts. We're first going to watch a game from BabyKnight where we see it work, and then we'll watch a game from Naniwa where we see it not working. So that way we can see how to win with the 3 gateway pressure, and also how to recover if our 3 gateway pressure doesn't pan out. So, let us do an investigation of this. And let's think through all the considerations that we need to make. Alright, so again, I'm going to claim right off the bat that we are going to see BabyKnight do some form of 3 gateway pressure. I'll just say that right off the bat. BabyKnight does this very cute 2 and gas. BabyKnight scouts his opponent going command center first. Oh, how bold. Oh, how devious and sly and evil. So, BabyKnight is going to do this nice, neat little play where he builds a Zealot and then cancels it right at the very end. He will go for a Nexus right away. And he's even going to go for the Warp Gate research right away. And then last but not least, a Stalker. Yay! A second Assimilator goes down. If you're a Terran player, what have you seen? You've seen an early Expander. You've seen a early second gas before anything else goes on. You are going to think long term. And as a matter of fact, STC is doing the mass corner cutting. He is super cutting corners. I actually just want to note all the corners he's cutting. I'm going to come back to 4 minutes and 45 seconds, but look at this. 2 refineries before a bunker. And a 3rd barracks. Come on, 3rd barracks. 3rd barracks before a bunker. Tech lab add-on before a bunker.
Add-on.
There's the bunker going down when stim starts. And even STC is so bold as to go for double reactor and then a factory. I mean, there's what, 4 Marines out on the map right now. STC has so few units. This is the way that many modern Terran players are playing. So let's go ahead and take a look at BabyKnight's play and see both how this exploits these greedy Terrans, but then we'll also see that it's not an all-in by any means. It's no longer a super scary weak play. So BabyKnight is doing the usual thing, checking for SCVs, a second Stalker to join Stalker number 1. We're building pylons along the top ridge, and we're even spotting in the middle of the map. We have 3 guys in our harvesters. We're building probes. We're not afraid. But we did chrono boost out that gateway mighty quickly. Ooh. Still, BabyKnight has not really positioned himself in some super attacking mode, but he does see these Marines, which is going to kick in a little bit of defense. See BabyKnight doing his first warping back home? Ain't nothing wrong with that. This is a nice opportunity for BabyKnight to get some extra Marine kills. And I actually genuinely question why STC did this move. But either way, BabyKnight will get the opportunity to do this forward pressure. Now this is guaranteed to have a little bit more success because we killed off the Marines. But if for some reason no Marines came up, when we move to the front, we'll actually get there earlier and can decide to back away earlier. But look at BabyKnight. I've killed a couple of Marines. This push should do some damage, but it won't necessarily kill my opponent unless he was really greedy and tried to get away with few Marines and 1 bunker. And then we get a very easy kill. This is just a really straightforward play that is becoming a very high percentage move, especially on maps where there's no ramp here. I mean, STC has a very aggressive SCV that's causing the mini-map to freak out, but this is becoming really high percentage. And you can make a judgment call to continue pushing. You can make a judgment call to retreat and decide you've done enough damage. What really sucks is that BabyKnight actually kills off the tech lab. But even if you don't want to keep attacking here, there's 3 big transitions. One is to go straight for the Robo facility and get Immortals while getting Colossus up. That would be double gas and Robo at the same time. You could do that, or you could go for Citadel and Armor. Citadel and a Forge. We'll see that in the next game. Or you can go Robo and 3 more gates, just to make sure you're very defended against drops. And you basically go Immortal plus Warping. Those are the 3 most common ones we see. But BabyKnight just continues to warp things in and just wins the game, while still having plenty on the backside. So what I want to do now is I want to stop. Oh my god, I said Citadel. I've been saying Citadel the whole time, haven't I? A Citadel is a Twilight Council. Sorry. Have I been saying that the whole time? Have I really been saying that the whole daily? Wow. Crap. The whole time, apparently. Yes, it is a Twilight Council. Okay. Hopefully you intuited what the hell I was talking about, but if I didn't, whatever. Now I want to do something, which is to note that BabyKnight goes on to win this game by just attacking and attacking and attacking. And now I'm going to ask the following question. What happens, I dare say, if for some reason we didn't end up killing our opponent? What if we went for this 3 gateway play, and it turns out our opponent was going to defend it easily? He wasn't cutting corners. Well, I have a replay for you, so I can actually show you exactly that. This is between Naniwa and QXC, also at Lone Star Clash. And this is a cool example of what happens when you go for 3 gate and your opponent has cut no corners. He has gone super defensive. You actually end up in a comfortable position, which we shall see from Naniwa. And he's done this many, 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 many times. I love it when Naniwa does this build. He even did it against Flash MLG. Naniwa goes for the usual thing, a gateway, a cybernetics core. Aw, yeah. And there's the gateway going down. Or excuse me, there's the stalker going down, the expand. And see, I already want you to note that BabyKnight went Nexus first, Nexus before Stalker. Here, Naniwa went Zealot and Stalker before Nexus. I don't really care about these ultra-specific details. They're not really going to factor in nearly as much. Naniwa is still chrono boosting heavily on his Warp Gate. And will happily be up against a little set of Marines. So see how similar this is? We're getting some free Marines. QXC did actually go for a 2 barracks play. But in that previous game, we saw an opponent who was not really looking for too much defense early. In the last game, we saw BabyKnight stockpile a huge pack of units. And indeed, this first Stalker from Naniwa, its goal is to pop up and go, wait, are you being greedy or are you being hyper-defensive? And it looks like QXC is being hyper-defensive. So watch what Naniwa does in response. He's going to waltz up and just pick off a couple SCVs. Not a lot of SCVs, just a few. He even got some Marines. You can just poke up and get that one, and this one, taking a few hits, just a couple, and just to get another. But great, we killed some Marines, we got some SCVs, and we still come back to the same statement again. If our opponent was really greedy and went low defense, we would just kill him. If not, if he goes for high defense, we know that that push, that 10-minute push, is now going to be weakened. It's now going to be later. And Naniwa is going to do this comfortable transition where he just goes Forge, Twilight Council, starts getting his gas geysers. We have units so we can kind of position them here. We don't really need to worry about units coming down and killing these until like 9 minutes or so. Let's look at Naniwa getting his gas geysers, getting his Zealot leg speed, getting the Robo. Still not really any units being made because we're saving up for gateways. This is the transition if our opponent did indeed play defensive. And I will have you know that indeed by the 10-minute mark, our opponent will be up against Zealot with leg charge and 7 gateways nearing completion. We don't even need to buy that much time. We're in good shape. I did say Citadel again, didn't I? Sweet. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and... Actually, this is a nice little stopping point before we head on to game number 3, which is again another gateway-focused unit build. A lot of the reason why people like going for the gateway emphasis is that the Stormers, High Templar, are so powerful early game. Very often, a Terran player in the early game is devoting his gas to medevacs and upgrades, and it can be kind of uncomfortable to start building a lot of ghosts in addition to that. So it's a nice defensive technique. Storm's just super effective, and you'll have a lot of opportunities to suddenly attack back. So we've been seeing BabyKnight in all his games focus on some way to get to this sort of Twilight Council focused play. In the first game, in part 1, we saw huge attacks. And then in part 2, we've been seeing some similar things. We go for this 3 gateway push that if our opponent was trying to be very greedy, we can kill him. And it ends up being nice because in the standard Terran metagame, Terrans are cutting all the corners. Terrans are going so corner-cutty, it's crazy. And if he is going overly defensive, then we can rapidly switch to this Forge Twilight Council tech, as Naniwa's demonstrating in this game. And then we're fine. We end up with what we need for that defense. In game, or in part number 3, we're going to get a chance to see a very, very defensive way to go straight into the Twilight Council tech. We've been using attacks in these games by BabyKnight up until now, but we'll be moving on to a game with Polt, where we use a very common robotics facility transition into mega fast zealot leg speed. See you then. Be right back. Be back in 2 minutes with part 3.